Hello, everyone.
Afternoon, man.
Welcome back. Dr. Elliot Justin, how are you, sir?
Superb.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. And you're from Bozeman, which we actually have had not too many people from that general area, but in my professional life, a lot of people exited seeing California to places like Montana, etc.
No comment.
No comment. So
That
are you
sounds
one
like
of the
somebody
Californians
was a
or one of the-
transplant.
Yeah.
I moved to California, but we moved here in 2005-ish.
Gotcha.
I always felt the West is best, East is least.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to get away from Route 1, Route 95, and live off leash. And the town has changed. The town when we moved here had like 26,000, 27,000 people, and now it's pushing 70.
I was going to say,
and that changes the culture.
For
Definitely.
My question was going to be: are you one of the Californians or one of the pissed off Bosemans?
I'm not. I'm a newcomer. I came here 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not that pissed off. I think people are going to enjoy the life here. But I like living in a town of around 30,000 people because you can be known or unknown. Whereas if a town has more than 50,000 people, you're unknown. And if you're a town with like 2,000 people, they'll just make up shit about you.
Yeah.
Matt and Tom, they must be having an affair.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
Well, I mean, that's not the worst thing that's been said about us. So.
Where are you from originally?
New York City.
Yeah. All right. So I was a Long Island kid.
Now you're in good company.
Rockaway.
I was in Hoboken.
I grew up in Rockaway.
Rockaway Beach. I mean, the Ramones had a whole song about it, man.
Yeah.
They did.
I had a college roommate from Far Rockaway, actually. So what made our way out there a couple times, but that's about it. I did also spend a summer in the Hamptons, which I guess makes me a little bit of a Long Island guy for at least 4 months.
Let me guess, you're a pool boy.
He's playing his best Great Gatsby role.
No, I had so many jobs there. It was absolutely bonkers. One of them, though, my funniest story about that was we carried Harrison Ford's bags to his room, and he tipped us in weed, and that was like kind of like
first of all, he's fucking Indiana Jones and Han Solo, and you're saying he tips in weed.
I mean, this was 30 years ago. I mean, come on.
I would have wanted cash. I'd like to see a Benjamin.
Listen,
you get weed from anyone. You probably already had weed.
He probably did. I hope it was better weed.
Was it good shit? Okay, Matt. How was it?
It was great from what I remember, but like all weed back then was great. It's funny. I must have a sign on my head because that's not the first time somebody's like, I mean, do you want some weed as a tip? And I'm like, fuck, yeah, sure. That makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I must put off an aura, man. I'm not sure.
It's a vibe.
Okay, it's a vibe. So let's get into a little more detail. So Harrison Ford, gay, straight?
Oh, he was with a bunch. It was not like a family weekend. He was there with this is not a tip of the hat to the gay thing. He was there to obviously socialize. It was predominantly guys. Yeah, I don't remember there being any females, but I don't think it was like a gay thing. I think it felt a little bit more like they were just there to get high away.
He's not your Tom Cruise or John Travolta kind of leading man.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
The Scientologists are coming now.
But that was a fun summer, man. I had like 50 different jobs and I barely had like a week of work at any of them. It was your quintessential like dumb 18-year-old boy doing dumb 18-year-old boy shit in the Hamptons, which the difference between an 18-year-old boy doing dumb Hampton shit and a 58-year-old guy doing dumb Hampton shit is really thin.
I think there's more zeros after that in the bank account, probably.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, sure, but aside from that, it's more or less very, very similar behavior. People seem to not give a shit once you're out there. So, and I was in Amagansett, so it's like literally you had to work to get there. Right. Like you had to work. Like, I mean, you had to work. And this was pre-GPS. So we knew every fucking neighborhood.
Yeah, but there's only like 3 roads once you start getting out that way.
That's not entirely true, man.
Like communities, but
yeah. We knew every back road. We're like, all right, go to the gray house with the white mailbox with a bird on it, make a left. Then you go all the way down, again, pre-Waze, but, which, by the way, now that I'm saying that, they're probably pissed off because Waze probably now knows all of those same routes and reroutes every nudnik going to Montauk now through all these residential neighborhoods. I'm sure that's
I
pleasant.
would 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, Dr. Justin, tell us a little bit about you, man. You got some fun toys that we're gonna talk about in a minute, but like how'd you get into this?
Last time we had a doctor that was here with any kind of penile health. He was pun intended a little stiff. He was you seem much more relaxed.
He also was very presumptuous.
I'm an unusual doctor. I mean, how many doctors had their mothers take them to urologists because the masturbation habit was excessive when they were in high school because she was worried that they wouldn't get into college? I might be the only one in the whole country.
I mean, I'd say you might own the title on that one, man. I don't know.
So if anybody's listening and they have a worse mom masturbation story, please let us know.
Yeah. Right.
When I graduated college, I whispered in her ear, "See, Mom, I made it." Anyway. So the first day of medical school, I walked into the class and said, "These are not my people. This is going to be tough." I went to the medical library because back in the day before everything was on computer, because I'm like 3 or 4 times as old as you guys. They had this thing called Index Medicus. That was basically all the medical journals were in this large book. I went for the A volume because I wanted to read about aphrodisiacs. Okay. And there was not a long line of medical students behind me clawing for hey, I want to read that book. That's why I got to medical school. You know, I was alone. And by the way, none of this shit worked. Yohimbe, horny goat weed. It was all the same, a lot of the same stuff that you can buy in the multi-billion male virility supplement industry.
Yeah.
I'll show
or any truck stop.
Nothing.
Right.
Let me just turn my phone
off.
Such
a calming ringtone there. It's like very soothing.
It's very zen.
I kind of want to answer it just to find out who's on the other side of that lovely noise. Yeah.
A pharmacy. One of my testosterone drug-seeking patients.
Wow.
You know, they need that hit. You know, I'm running out, God. So I, how did I get into this? I live in Montana. You know, I ride horses. I own horses. My wife says I ride like a 50-year-old. I say I ride at least like a 30-year-old. Anyway, many years ago, I broke 6 vertebrae. I knocked that fucking tree over, man. That tree is still complaining about me. I can't believe I can turn this fucking phone off. And sorry about that.
You're chucking it out the window into the prairie.
I should. Pharmacies are really persistent. I just stash that in the drawer. Anyway, I broke 6 vertebrae, and that got me interested in what's been done to rehabilitate sexual function in men and women.
Was this lumbar fractures or
vertebral fractures?
Okay.
And that's really. Then there were 6 papers in what we call the medical literature claiming that they're able to restore sexual function by implanting an electrode by the pudendal and cavernous nerve, every guy's favorite 2 nerves that no one ever talks about. So this would be like cardiac pacemaking. It's called neuromodulation. You put an electrode in the heart and you can control the heart. You keep the heart beating even after someone's dead. Imagine the impact of an unaging population of being able to neuromodulate human sexuality.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was this the thing that was dubbed the Orgasmatron with a nod to Woody Allen films? But wasn't there something that was like in that? And I think it innervated the sacral nerve. But supposedly,
people tried working through the sacrum and made similar claims.
Okay.
The problem with going into the sacrum is that it's more invasive. I mean, I was really looking for something that could be easily implanted in an outpatient setting, as opposed to having to go to a hospital and get operated on. Anyway, it's always amused me since my entire medical career that we call it the medical literature, because literature is largely fiction and it's false. It's not true, and we certainly should all know after COVID that most of what the doctors and scientists, medical doctors and scientists pass as science is not true, not reproducible. So I had at first I tried out on 2 rams, male sheep, and got weak erections, did get ejaculation, but also got defecation, urination. So it wasn't exactly bedroom friendly, except maybe Matt in that Hampton community you're in. That might.
I was going to say I know some German nightclubs.
Or maybe Sydney or London. I think the Hamptons would be a prime location.
Yeah, probably.
So if you're looking like work something in the summers, door to door in the Hamptons, I give this to you. You can do this.
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway, so I then tried out on myself. I had a friend, who's a urologist, implant electrode right above the pubic bone. We tried various amplitudes and frequencies, and I felt nothing. And I called the project O for obvious reasons. And the usual thing to do would be, oh well, it didn't work on me, and N of 1. Let's go down to Brazil or Nigeria and test it on, raise money and test it on 25 people. I don't think we actually know how elections are produced. I think erections are just really multifactorial. And it'd be really great if it just came down to electrical stimulation, and it might someday, but we haven't figured it out. Anyway, skipping ahead, a urology professor at the University of Utah heard about this experiment. He'd been spending, 8 or 9 years trying to figure out a way of counting the number of nocturnal erections that men have, because they're a leading indicator of their cardiovascular health. And
is that true? I mean, is there a tight corollary with that?
The urologists say the penis is the canary in the coal mine of cardiovascular disease.
I've heard that before, but I guess nocturnal erections and correlating
the ones you have, the erections that you have when you're having sex they're more subjective factors involved. If you're trying to have sex with Tom, you might not be able to get it up because he's not your kind of guy. But if you're trying to have sex with Aphrodite, it'll work. So it's just subjective. There's alcohol, recreational drugs, other things that have an impact on your sex erection. Nocturnal erections are relatively relieved, if you will, of other variables. So they're more accurate. So a leading indicator in medicine is really powerful. A leading indicator is predictive. In medicine, we treat associations. High blood pressure is associated with heart attack and stroke. It's not predictive. And your systolic blood pressure goes from 140 to 160. It's not really telling you very much. Unless it goes on for a long time. It's not telling you anything like your heart, your kidneys, which if your nocturnal erections go down by 50% number, you have a 50% chance of next 2 years. That's really
wow.
So let me ask you guys, Matt, Tom.
Oh shit! I need another device.
Matt, how many nocturnal erections did you have last night?
I mean, that's a great question. I have literally no idea.
Yeah, because you're sleeping. Because Tom, maybe you had morning wood this morning, but how many nocturnal erections did you have last night?
I don't know. Hopefully, I was leaning up against my wife, and she can tell you how many times I bumped her. But
yeah,
I don't know.
We hear your wife's a sound sleeper, so we don't know either.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll go with that one.
yeah.
It's her reputation,
Precedes her. Yeah.
So that's the point. You don't know. You need a device. So we live in this incredible age of sex tech, where just really small bands, scale, small everything. But there's this gap, and that's sex. And what do men care more about than how many steps it took yesterday, or their blood pressure? They care about their sexual health, and their sexual health reflects their cardiovascular health and medication side effects. So to be able to measure nocturnal erections will be really, really powerful. And I'm confident that what we're doing will become the standard of care in 3 to 5 years. And right now, you guys are a lot younger than me, but you're not that young. If you went to a doctor and they just looked at you and said, "Hey, Tom, you're looking good. Come back a year from now," you think, "What the fuck? How about a blood pressure? How about electrocardiogram?
Yeah, something. Give me something.
Are you gonna check my liver proteins? Am I borderline anemic?" Because we want to, ideally, of course, with these tests, we don't just want to say, "Hey, you got really bad diabetes." We want to say, "Hey, you have early signs. You want to detect things before they become
so we can sidestep
a larger problem."
Right,
exactly.
right.
So if your nocturnal erections and your baseline was say 4, and it went to 3 or 2.8 or whatever, and you saw deterioration, that would indicate that you probably have a problem. If you went from 4 to 1, you got a big problem. So you want to detect it on the way down.
So let me ask you something. I mean, you said baseline. I assume you got to, measure this for a couple nights to get that. But like, what? I guess if you're already in an acute situation, like, can you get a baseline? Is that kind of
like?
Well,
it's a start because once let's suppose you have a problem. Well, you can then measure what works.
Oh, I see. So it's really measuring the other way, really.
Correct.
Yeah,
you can measure both ways, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
At both extremes, if a man most men between the age of 30 and 70 should have around 3 nocturnal erections per night. But if you had 1, well, that's an acute situation. That would be, hey, I need to see a cardiologist and neurologist. On the hand, if you had 4, you think, oh man, I'm a stud. So
yeah.
In fact, you might want to put it on your dating site. So
I have 4 raging nocturnal
So
erections.
how long how long have you been collecting data on this? Is there somebody that's like 25 that we should all be emulating, or?
Well, we've now documented 85,000 erections.
Wow.
We have the world's largest dick database,
boner database.
Wow.
Yeah,
and with that information, when we first started, we had this is like maybe 2.5 years ago at the Electronic Show when we launched. But they were like 1,000. We had like 1,000 erections, probably a third of which were mine.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm in good health, but it's the point being that now if you're, if the data set is most robust between age 35 and age 70, that's what most men are. We got a couple of guys in their 80s. We got a couple hundred guys in their 20s. So we have valuable data for comparison.
And so the way you're saying it, it sounds like that age range, there really shouldn't be too much fluctuation. This is not something like that we necessarily, because the big thing is like, oh, after 40, your testosterone drops. So it's really not tied to say the normal process of aging more than a function of cardiovascular health.
Well, we've made discoveries.
Okay.
The discovery, really, the biggest discovery is that what the doctors have assumed is that the leading cause of erectile dysfunction is probably the second leading cause. So,
really?
And why is that? And by the way, all men have what I call fading erections. One thing I want to get to in a moment is why I hate the word dysfunction. But here's what we discovered. So, and I'll use my hands to illustrate. The instance I'll use my hands to illustrate.
You got a banana in your kitchen?
So,
exactly.
As the incidence of erectile dysfunction goes up 10% per decade, so I'm 72.
Wow, is it really that bad?
Yeah, it's that bad.
Wow.
The thinking was that the firmness of sex erections would go down. The number of nocturnal erections would go down. The firmness of nocturnal erections would go down. We're not seeing that though.
Huh.
So, and that's what we're seeing is a slight decline, a little droop in the late 60s, early 70s. So that's really interesting because, and I think the reason is as follows: the academic urologists and academics in throughout medicine set the standards. They see the sickest people in their practices.
Their population is skewed,
and they study. You got it. And they study those people. So these are the men who can attain an erection or struggle to attain an erection. These are like 10 to 15%, right around 12% of men. These are men with bad diabetes, bad hypertension, multiple sclerosis, severe, significant prostate disease. But that's not most men. Most men, they might have, at my age, certainly, maybe they might have borderline hypertension. They might have mild atherosclerosis, but they're still getting enough blood to their dick to get it up. Mm-hmm. So the problem with these men is not with getting up, because they're getting it up, and we know they're getting up because they have these nocturnal erections. The problem is they're losing it. They have what I call fading erection syndrome, what the doctors call Venus leak syndrome, and actually, all men have this. It's one of the reasons why the dick is not, is less of a powerful sexual organ than the clitoris, because the clitoris doesn't suffer. So what happens to men? You guys.
This is a show about women. Apparently,
huh? What happens to all guys? Matt and Tom, I'm guessing that you, like most guys, you held a girl's hand for 10 minutes, age 13, and she gave you a little peck on the cheek. You probably get a hard on for about an hour and a half.
Jeez, I had strong breeze when I was 13.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. It doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Right? When you're, it just sucks kind of being a man in a way. I get tired of hearing women whine about how they have it the worst. Because, so, we lose. Any man can prove to himself right now, all your listeners, you guys did tonight, prove to yourself that you have Venus leak syndrome. How can you do that? Go to Pornhub or XNXX, wherever you go to when you're alone, or maybe when you're together with someone else. But I want you to be alone for this experiment. Get rock hard, and then turn off the stimulation. See how long it takes your erection to use your imagination. See how long it takes your erection to go away. It'll be like 25, 35 seconds. Then get rock hard again. Put a ring on it. Ours, of course, but put any ring on it. heck, a rubber band would do, and you will stay hard for about 2+ minutes. Well, why is that? Because you're holding blood in your penis. As you get older, we don't hold blood in our penis as effectively.
Oh, interesting. So it's literally leaking.
Is this
like that's a very literal
health?
situation.
It's vascular health on the venous side, and we all suffer from it. We don't know why this affects men even at a young age. Why? I mean, young age means 30, 35. Another example of this would be, at my age, if I sit on a plane I recently was in Africa. I was on a plane on and off for like 36, 38 hours coming home. My rings got a little tight. My socks got a little tight. Why?
It's swelling, yeah.
Because it's swelling. Because no, it didn't happen when I was 20 years old. Why is that? Because as we get older, the smooth muscle around our venules, our small veins, the smooth muscle gets weaker, and the little veins get stiffer. In our ankles, it means that we don't pump the blood back to hearts effectively. In your dick, it means that the blood is leaving your dick faster. So the answer for all men, I'm not going to do this for the data, and the data is really, really important, especially for men who have significant erectile dysfunction or cardiovascular problems. But what the data is showing is that, guys, put a ring on it. If you want to rock harder, last longer, be more confident, have a more intense orgasm, satisfy your partner more, put a ring on it. Guys aren't thinking that way. Straight guys aren't. Like gay guys are, but straight guys aren't thinking about that. So one of the jokes we have at like the American Urology Association is how do you tell the difference between a gay doctor and a straight doctor? One question. I'll try on you guys. Matt, Tom, do you guys use cock rings?
I do not.
You're both straight.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
That's it, huh?
That's it. Because gay doctors will say, yeah, like you're an idiot. Yeah, like last night, you got a better one? Straight doctors are like, I don't need that. Maybe it's for some of my patients. Well, the reality is it's not about need. Let me ask you guys, Matt and Tom, another question. Do you want to rock harder, last longer, have more intense orgasm, be more confident, be able to have another drink or two? Do you want that?
Well, it's funny because now you sound like a 3 a.m. commercial.
Yeah.
Who says no to that?
Yeah, exactly. Any guy who says no to that sounds like a mark in their forehead. Like,
right.
So,
no, that sounds terrible, Doc.
No, I don't.
No, my ego is completely adjusted.
Yeah.
So the answer should be yes. So let's look at vibrators for a moment. Again, I'm like twice as old as you guys. And back in the 70s and 80s, women were embarrassed to use vibrators. They're going to become vibrator dependent, and now they're normal. They're
in CVS for Christ's sake.
Yeah. My daughter took them on dates. She got married. I don't know how many my wife was. My wife could actually come to bed with like a bandolier of lotus rations.
Well, yeah, you did. You are the first person to pull out a dildo within the first 5 minutes of the show.
Yeah. Like, listen,
you got that record.
Yeah. No, but you're totally right. And I mean, we have a B2B software platform that has 70,000 SKUs in it. About 30,000 of them are adult products, and so we sell a lot of dildos. And it's funny because people's imagination with dildos is something that far transcends everything I would have thought, right? Like so many different kinds. So
put a ring on it.
So what about now? I was told that there's safety concerns.
Not with our device.
Okay, all right.
So why? So the concern is these hard silicone rings have never been tested for safety. So the doctors just kind of, the lawyers say, don't wear it for more than 20, 30 minutes. And why is that? Because I'm a former emergency physician. Every once in a while, guys put one of these rings on their dick, and they double or triple dose on Viagra, and they get drunk and they fall asleep, and then they end up with, because these rings will hold the blood in the penis, they can end up actually with gangrene or damage to the nerves in the penis. So our rings.
So the safety is just protecting dumb people from themselves more than there's an actual.
Well, do you guys treat that, or do you just let Darwinian logic reduce the population?
He's like, no comment.
Yeah.
No comment, man.
First, of course, we take photographs and put them on the internet, but then
after that. You've got a secret wall in your office of the Dum Dum Awards. You're like, okay, look at this asshole.
Well, that's a whole other.
Is it like, yeah, I'm sure you fell on that light bulb just up your ass, right? Is that the same kind of scenario?
How about the guys who like, hey, the reason why the condom is stuck in my esophagus is because I tripped at the bar and just inhaled it. You know, it was on the floor and I inhaled it.
But, sure.
So cock rings all cock rings are designed for safety, not efficacy and safety. So I got into it for the data, but in order to collect data on our penises overnight, we had to reinvent the cock ring because you couldn't put one of these rings on the penis overnight. We had to have a cock ring that could be worn for 8 to 10 hours.
Wow.
So our rings are not made out of silicone. They're made out of elastomer. And the advantage of elastomer as a material is that it will allow, it's soft and stretchy. It allows the arterial blood to go in and only somewhat constrains the venous return. So there's no risk of,
it delays, doesn't stop, basically.
Exactly. Okay. And under most circumstances, especially if sleeping, the delay is minimal. And obviously, if Tom, you're next to your wife and you had a ring on and started banging her, then that you'd be getting stimulation, and then it would stop.
It would stay. It would,
right.
It would be more effective. Or so we've heard. About your wife, it is.
So I can call her down. We can get her opinion on this. I don't know.
I'm waiting.
I mean, actually, I don't even know. If she's here.
So the ring was this. All our rings will function as. Okay, I hate the phrase cock ring because it doesn't tell you what it really is. They should call them erection rings because it's really sustaining an erection. It should be thought of as something not as a sex toy, but it's almost something that's quasi medical in a way. So we designed our top selling product, which is the Maximum Performance Ring, is designed to one for longer sex sessions. We tested it at 90 minutes, and I've worn it longer, but we tested 90 minutes to make the claim that unlike these other rings, our ring can be comfortably worn for 90 minutes. And we had 4,000 uses in that paper. No one else has ever proven that a ring is safe. We also tested the ring to produce a more intense orgasm. So, women have vibrators and men have shit, unless you're unless you really think a fleshlight is better than your hand. I don't get that. If you put the right amount of pressure over the urethra, you draw up the ejaculatory phase. So our goal was to draw up the ejaculatory phase 25 to 50%. My ejaculatory phase with a maximum.
That's not just a casual increase.
That's at least 10 to 30, 35 seconds there.
Yeah. I mean,
because the ejaculatory phase is just when you ejaculate, but the orgasm is kind of radiates off of that, if you will.
Yeah.
So, I don't have sex.
How are you collecting this data? This isn't self-reported.
The data for the non-tech ring, for the increasing ejaculatory phase, that's self-reported. People were using a stopwatch. The data for the tech ring, well, there are two sensors. There's one there, and there's another one, and the other one on the hook. The data for the sensors is on a phone app. It goes to the cloud and it's analyzed. We're measuring how hard you get, how long you last.
I don't know why I want that so bad now.
Yeah. Now I'm like, damn it.
I'm training.
Yeah.
I mean, who's firmer? Who's Matt or you?
Yeah, that's a great question.
God, now we're gonna pull out apps at the bar for something else now. It's already gotten weird here, man.
What are you guys looking at? What is this a measurement of?
See whose dick's harder.
Yeah,
totally not gay though. Don't worry.
You could have a leaderboard at your favorite bar.
We could, in fact, have a leaderboard. Yeah,
I don't think they like us that much, though. I don't.
Yeah, it's funny though. In general, people do think this kind of behavior is a little odd because we've never had this option in the world before. But I think Tom and we have a show about this, so we're a little bit more obsessed than other people. But I think there is some kind of really neat thing to be said about we're at a spot in human history where we could put a bunch of things on our body and learn shit that's actually useful,
and really, shit we didn't know,
and shit we never would have known.
Research that we do,
right? And I guess, Doc, the other thing, real quick, just as a point of clarification, did you consider yourself a male health doctor or a cardiovascular doctor? Because you seem to be kind of in both worlds.
My background, I'm an emergency medicine physician and also a medical sensor technologist, strategist, if you will. But if I saw that at this point, we've documented 84,000 erections. We have 7 published papers. We're looking at researchers are using our device for determining what's the right dose of testosterone, determining, hey, what's the right dose of Cialis? Do I even need Cialis? You know, for
Wow, yeah, that all makes sense.
Is shockwave, am I going to benefit from shockwave therapy? Does Botox work?
Because you got an easy yardstick here. No pun intended. No pun intended. But yeah, I mean,
what's the you know, we doctors stupidly prescribe 2 dick-killing categories of medications: antihypertensives, antidepressants. Well, what's the right dose? Hey doc, can you switch me to something else? Because my dick isn't working as well. You know, as well. Now just start on medications. And it's also a reflection of your cardiovascular health. I mean, for an older guy, older meaning over 45, 50, just the way it's nice to see that your electrocardiogram is normal. It's nice to see that you have 3 or 4 nocturnal erections per night, because it means not just your sexual health is normal, but it's another important data point about your cardiovascular health.
Yeah.
So what do I consider myself? Well, my wife calls me Lord of the Rings, but I
love her already.
That was the weakest one, Doc. So far,
but I do like her.
I like it. That one was a little canned, though. Dude, had I known we were gonna have such a good time, and we had the porn addiction woman on this morning again. It's been a very interesting.
I hate that
Friday.
phrase. Fucking
well, she's gone away from it a little bit, but
she has now. She's
there are several. Let's talk about things I hate. I'm going to talk about phrases.
We're going to have to ask you about vasopressin then.
Yeah.
She was really on that, you know. So
did she talk about the death grip?
No, but
now I'm intrigued.
No, somebody else is. So somebody has mentioned that, and they mentioned it in passing, and I actually had to look this up because I did not know what this was. But if I got this right, it's basically a masturbation gone wrong situation. Am I? Where you're just trying?
Look, I'll put it this way: if I were porn addicted, while I'm talking to you guys, I'd actually be looking at red stiletto heels on girls'
right.
legs.
Okay.
That's addiction. What the feminists here, in my opinion, are really whipping on guys, and the regular doctors too. Let's start with dysfunction. We don't talk about women anymore as being frigid, anorgasmic, hysteric, cold. No, women have. We don't talk. And by the way, the phrase for women is female sexual dysphoria, FSD. You guys haven't even heard about it because we're not allowed to talk about women that way. Appropriately so. We want to try to talk about things positively, especially when there are solutions. So I have no for the men, unfortunate men who can't get an erection or struggle to get an erection. That's a dysfunctional dick. And I have no problem with the word dysfunction being used. But for 85% of other men who get erections and lose them, they got a problem. And now with data and with a cock and with an erection ring, they have solutions. So why I like to talk about erectile fitness. By the way, I've trademarked that phrase.
That's awesome.
A great phrase. First
of all, it's a great phrase. I'm instantly in love with that.
Where's the machine at the gym for that one? Because I'm sure the line's pretty long.
Your bicep curl, your tricep curl.
Well, if your gym is that progressive,
I'm not allowed back at the LA Fitness.
If your gym is that progressive, where guys are going to go to get on a machine and put our ring on, jerk off and see how hard they get. That's one thing. I don't think guys aren't ready for that yet.
I don't think so. I don't think that they are. It's probably a fair statement.
We're a fitness concerned society, and we are all on the road. All of us on the road from erectile fitness to erectile dysfunction. Where are we on that road? Well, we need data, and so our tech ring gives men a dashboard. Where am I on that road? How do I compare to other men my age? And as the database expands, it'll be even more precise. How do I compare to other men my age who have diabetes? How do I compare to other men my age who are alcoholics? All this information we pull together. So we need data because you can't get anywhere or know where you are without data. So I hate dysfunction. Porn addiction. Okay, this is what I tell porn addiction. Well, okay, I watch about 25 to 40 minutes of porn most days of the week. Is that addiction? A lot of people say, well, that's an addiction. No, it's a pleasure. Look, women's when I'm on panels at sex shows, women with porn addiction. My point is, sex built the web.
Oh yeah.
But porn doesn't keep the web going. It's shopping that keeps the porn going. Women spend 6 to 10 times as much time shopping as men spend watching porn. Talk about addiction. but no one would dare bitch about how we got to get women to shop less.
Did you just say porn is cost effective?
Yeah.
That's what I
What
heard.
I'm hearing is
what I'm hearing is I'm saving money.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so this whole concern with porn addiction that men will one they'll have expectations that they can't get from real. Well, fuck. So women watch porn too, and any mature person knows that those are stars. I remember back when my daughter was a junior in high school. She had a bunch of girlfriends over. I'm a really good cook. I was cooking dinner for them, and they started complaining about how the boys at Bozeman High School have small penises. And I pointed out to them, like, the boys at Bozeman High School have average penises, and you girls are watching too much porn. And the boys at Bozeman High School probably think all you girls are flat chested because you don't have D's. So, and they kind of cringe. But so this gets thrown on men. Women watch porn. A lot of women watching like 40% of the porn on web. So we don't talk about female porn addiction. And then this is a concern that men won't get off on vaginal sex because they're used to their hand. Well, tell your wife or your girlfriend to use her hand, because we don't talk about women being vibrator addicted, although they all are. It's not addiction. It's a preference. So I'll just talk about myself, since my wife is outside talking to someone else. My wife is 71 years old. She's had 3 kids, and we try to have sex pretty much every day. But I don't get the friction that I got from having sex that I did when she was 35, 40 years old. It's just the way it is. Sure. And no guy wants to tell his wife or girlfriend, "Hey, your pussy's too loose." That's kind of a bedroom killer. But guys, for talking to my customers and to,
I think you got your next device.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about a device. So talking to customers and my patients, that's a common male complaint, though. What I got off on there, I don't get off on anymore right now, and I can't tell my wife that this position or that position doesn't work. And then they have these devices to retrain men, these fleshlights, to retrain men to come to vagina stimulation. Well, imagine telling any woman, I don't know if you guys are married, I'll assume you are.
We both are.
Imagine telling your wife, "Hey, honey, for now on vibrators, it's just low speed. 1 speed, that's all you get. Low speed only." She would look at you like, "What the fuck are you talking about? You an asshole?"
Yeah. Do you even know how to use this thing?
Right. And so no one would ever tell women to do that. But somehow they want to tell men, stop watching porn, use this device that simulates a flaccid vagina. It's wrong. And then there's the death grip. Well, it happens to be that a hand has a brain attached to it. A vagina, I don't know if women have noticed this, but a vagina doesn't have a brain attached to it. And the hand provides more stimulation. I would rather, and a lot of guys feel the same way. In terms of, ultimate climax, I'd rather have my wife's hand in her mouth than I would her vagina. People don't want to talk about these guys, especially they don't want to talk about these things, and that's part of the problem. Men don't want to talk about how they're bored with a certain position, or they're not getting the friction that they want.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about dysfunction, I think that's really the epicenter of dysfunction.
And that's even like a more of a couple situation too, where it's
that's a communication
dysfunction. Tango.
Right? Yeah. Well, because we all look, I mean, I think anybody who's been married, I've been with my wife 27 years, I think almost 28 years, 22 next month, actually. So we've been married a long time. Right. And look, I mean, everything's been done and said, and we've got kids that are teenagers and college is coming up and this and that and the other. And I'm running a show and I'm doing business, communication isn't like what I would say has always been as clear as it could be. And I think that if you want to talk about real dysfunction, that's really where I think most of it starts. And then after a while, you get to a point where you just don't want to talk about it, right? It's like, okay, we've gone too long without talking about
it. I've figured out a coping mechanism on my own. We're good.
Yeah, right. But then to your point, and it's funny because I have, we've had her on the show a couple of times talking about this, and I think that this idea of porn addiction is interesting because Tom and I kind of
were like, how much is too much?
What is too much?
What is too much? Is this you crash your car because you got Pornhub on your phone?
Yeah,
right. That seems excessive.
On your windshield.
Yeah, the heads up display is not my speedometer. It's some babysitter porn situation. That's what it is. But I agree. It is funny that you said this because I've only heard a couple other people say this. This idea of watching porn as a leisure activity that yes leads to masturbatory,
even the biohackers talk about, oh, you're getting that vasopressin release and it's going to mess up your testosterone levels and it's going to make you unable to be intimate. And I'm like, where? But that's the thing, and I think this is one of the many reasons why I've had all this pushback against even that term biohacker. It's like, no, I want to live long and healthy, but if the data's not there and you just say it and it's a trend, that fucking pisses me off,
stuff
man.
up, by the way. I'm not aware of a single study that shows that men who watch porn have lower testosterone. Not one study.
All right, well, guess what? I'm opening another tab right now.
So what?
If you want to prove that, you'd have to actually look by minutes. Well, is it 50 hours a week? Is it what is it?
I'm willing to put in some research.
So, Doc, what makes people? If you had to guess, and I'm just curious of your professional opinion here, what makes people sort of go down that rabbit hole? Like, why put a kibosh on it and say, hey, look, if you watch porn, your testosterone is going to go down, you're this, you're that, the other. Like, why even go down that road at all? Is it ignorance? Are they selling something else?
I think fundamentally it's actually contempt for men. It's a contempt for male sexuality. They want us to be something other than what we are.
Oh, because some of these dudes are the biggest douchebags in the world. Like they're overcompensating on their masculinity.
Yeah. And obviously, there are men who are genuinely porn addicted. Obviously, you can't hold a job if you're living in your grandmother's basement. If you're
jerking off all day,
or if you really truly, if you have a profound fetish where it's just got to be, black spiked heels, red stockings, and whatever. That's the problem. But that's not again. This is people. We talked before about the urologists projecting from the sickest people, the guys who can't get an erection, onto the general population. Well, now you have sex therapists, and I've worked with some of them. Sex therapists seeing people who do have severe porn addiction, projecting that onto the general population. And for the general population, men, that is, I'll talk about men, I'll talk about women as well too. Porn is fresh ideas. Porn is getting the hard on. Porn is, hey, my wife only wants to have sex 2 or 3 times a week, and I want sex every day. So it's a way of dealing with
keeping the peace.
With marriage. I'm married 37 years, and I want sex more than my wife does. So I'm not supposed to have sex when she doesn't want to have sex. It's that sort of everything's got to be equal. You got to be like me. Behind mine is to some degree hostility to men. Now, and again, there are men who genuinely have porn addiction. Let's not talk about those guys. But when this comes up, I've got guys. Customers and patients, not many, but they like the guy gets caught jerking off by his wife, and she insists that they see a therapist for porn addiction. Well, hey, what he's doing is normal. I mean, and
wow.
So we're going to medicalize something that is actually normal. It's fine.
That feels combative.
It's a lot less expensive, a lot less dangerous to my relationship for me to be watching porn than it is
have
to
a mistress or two.
A mistress or having hey. I need my escort service, deep throat weekly.
Yeah. That gets pricey unless you're like Richard Branson, but it gets a little spendy. So I guess the other, an add-on kind of question is like when you look at people who respond with saying stuff like, "Oh, it's going to lower testosterone and stuff." I gotta imagine you have a lot of people coming to you being like, you kind of tipped your hat to it earlier. People are like, my problem must be low T. Let's pump that thing through the roof. Right. Like, how do you sort of,
that's interesting. So, because, and there's
oh no,
you did something.
Is there a mute button on the headset?
Yeah, you might have hit a mute button. We heard you fine. And then all of a sudden off you went.
In mid-sentence, just gone.
Yeah. I'm just going to hit.
Oh, perfect.
So we have testosterone therapy is really popular right now. And we have men, including myself, who use the device to monitor their testosterone therapy because men are looking for 2 outcomes. So first I want to say that every man over the age of 45, 50 should get their testosterone tested. This should become part of the routine workup of men, just like the little proteins in your hemoglobin, and your liver function test, and all those other things. If your doctor's not doing it, demand it. So if a man is low T, 340 or less, and wants to take T, the doctors.
Wow, 340. You're dropping it pretty low because I know people that. Well, let's just say there's a chain of wellness centers that's up and down the East Coast, And if you look at their Instagram, it's dudes my age and older with like, pipes in their arms and women with so much goddamn filler in their face. And I know their testosterone is hovering over 1200.
Well, you can actually do they need it? I'll put it that way. Because
I gotcha.
you can't, because we have testosterone receptors, and you can once they're saturated,
you're not going over that. You're just wasting. You're
wasting money. And hey, I don't have a problem doing it. Testosterone basically is overall safe, but it's prescribed on the basis of subjective factors right now. So the doctor, if he even bothers to ask questions, because most of the guys just fucking want to make money. I mean, you go to Get Row or Hims Online or some of the places you're talking about, they're making money. They're not going to tell you, "Hey, Elliot or Tom, you don't need this, man. You're a fucking stud." So what are men looking for? Objectively, they're looking for, especially my age, am I retaining muscle, gaining muscle?
Right.
And how's my dick working? In other words, do I have more? How are my nocturnals? How firm are they? How many do I have? How long do they last? Because this type of technology didn't exist, doctors basically able to get away with asking subjective questions. 3 of them. How's your sleep? Well, everyone's sleep sucks. How's your energy? And then they spin it. Would you like more energy? Yeah. Well, who the fuck wouldn't like more energy?
Yeah.
And how's your libido in comparison to what it was in the past? Well, everyone.
For everybody, it's going to go down.
So it's kind of set up so everyone asks. So if you again, you got these online questionnaires, companies that sell to you online. No matter what your answers are, you're getting it. So now I know, looking at you two guys right now, that right now if I said, "Hey, Matt, Tom, give me your check account information, your ACH number. I want to wire each of you guys $100,000 right now because you're just such wonderful guys." I'm certain that tomorrow your energy is fabulous, sleep's great, and you're going to be banging your wife happily, laughing about this guy who wired me $100,000. So those are subjective factors. So if you're taking testosterone, my recommendation to men is get our tech ring, find out about your nocturnals. Then also put a tape measure around your biceps, put a tape measure around your pecs, and measure the baseline. And then take testosterone. And then we use those things to determine what the right dose is. For me, there's no difference between 600 and 1200. I've been up that high. I don't. But why do I take testosterone? I don't really. My nocturnal erections are fine. I'll show you that I had urologists, renowned urologists, predict that they last longer, they'd be firmer, and that didn't happen because that's their mindset. They're thinking about guys. Right. They're thinking about guys who are really, really low tape.
And is it because that data has never existed before, too? Right. This is just what we think is working.
Correct. You got it. It's conjecture. And I take it from my muscle. I increased my upper body strength 8 to 10%, and then plateaued in about 6 weeks of testosterone. Most of I go to the gym 3 times a week, and it's kind of a CrossFit routine. But of course, I'm a dude, so I got to do some bench presses, and I got to do some bicep curls. And I increased. I'm not massive, as you can tell, but it was good. So I keep taking it. But it has no impact on my nocturnals. But I did notice issues with muscle. Go ahead.
So no, I that's interesting because I think a lot of guys that are in the space that have opted not for testosterone, I think have a lot of misconception on the other side where like, okay, it's going to increase my prostate cancer chances. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. Like, yeah. So that's what I was going to just tap into that a second. Like
it's the impact on prostate risk is minimal. And then there are all these claims about natural testosterone supplements or supplements that will increase your testosterone level. I want to see the data again. I think it's hypothetical, but possible that these things will. I understand why people would think that they might, but I have not seen any research, and I don't believe it. I won't believe so.
And we're talking about everything from herbs to precursors, right?
Correct. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have not found a single supplement to work.
Which is funny. So, I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner. Every herb that's shaped like a dick, guess what it does? Guess what why do we need rhino horns?
How about this as a slogan? Save a rhino, save a tiger, get a cock ring.
Look, man, it seems so much easier too. Mechanical intervention.
So guys come to you originally because of ED issues, or because like they were referred to you by a cardiologist and said, hey, we're gonna just keep peeling this onion and find out, you know?
They're coming to us because they want to know. Well, there are two groups. One are men 55 to 75 who have a problem, and they want data to figure it out. And the common thing is, my doctors don't know what they're talking about, or I don't trust my doctors, or
Right.
and there's a good reason for that, because the doctors don't prioritize sexual health, and they don't ask that key question: is your problem this? Is your problem that? When do you lose your erection? I mean, they don't ask. Then I ask a question about sexual health.
Right.
So but there are younger guys who biohacker types. They want the data.
Yeah, they just want the data.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I'm pressing 50. I turn 49 next month as well, and so like I'm, it's something that you got to kind of put on your radar.
You should want to know your data.
Right? Yeah, I mean, I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I'm not getting younger. I mean,
but you should also, probably you're in good health, you should also want to use a ring for sex, because you're going to rock hard and have more intense orgasms. Maybe you don't want that.
Well, I mean, I'm not curious about that part.
Man, no one's arguing that.
Yeah, no one's arguing that part. Yeah, for sure.
I'm going, wait, what's his website again? Let's go order him now.
Yeah, I mean, but but you're right. But I guess, and listen, there's no other way of saying this that you guys aren't going to make fun of me, but like, if I haven't yet had a problem enough where I like have to go looking for an answer, like, I think it's human nature. I'm just like, all right, not a problem yet.
Yeah.
Right. But like the smarter side of me is going, well, if you recognize the potential and kind of like get some data in the door when it's not a problem, then you could maybe push that down the road. Or
I'd say about once a month, I get a complaint from a guy, he's around your age, man, who says, I bought the ring and my results are normal. So I kind of regret to spend the money, like I want to spend the money on this. Well, you don't think that way when you go to your doctor and you find out your liver proteins are normal, your electrocardiogram is normal, your blood pressure is normal, and that's
right.
Hey, my response to the guy is, hey, great. Now,
you don't go home and cancel your gym membership.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess I'm good.
Now, how about
I'm gonna start drinking and smoking now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, that's interesting.
And for someone like yourself who's good health, hey, get a reading. Once you establish a baseline, which takes 4 or 5 readings, assuming they're normal, do it once a quarter. Or
I was going to go down that road and be like, how often are we doing this? Is it like kind of like my annual physical? It seems like maybe a little bit more.
I think for someone your age, assuming it's normal, it'd be like twice a year. You want to ideally you want to identify a problem, before it happens. But once if you're normal for a month, you're gonna be normal for probably the next 6 months.
Right. This isn't something that's gonna
do overnight. An electrocardiogram every month. But it's good. It's good to know. Now, as far as using the ring for sex, I think that should be daily. I think an orgasm a day keeps the doctor away.
It's funny. We've had this conversation. Tom has talked about it from an Eastern standpoint about having chi.
It is the weirdest thing, because when they were talking about basically aging and how many times, like, look, Matt, the chart for men, like at our age, we're starting to lose teeth. When this chart was like teeth are falling out of our head, like, no, we should be working, but they're like, now at this point, once a week orgasm, that's it, right? Well, and this Taoist practice of what they call semen retention.
That's I'm at war with that concept, because here's why. Because the claim is made, and I've argued about this with Dave Asprey and with Timu Arnu, who both claim that hey, once a year take a month off, and your testosterone will go up. Well, one, you're sacrificing a month of pleasure, so I don't understand that. But it's a long month in my mind.
Yeah, it's a long month.
They're into the self-discipline aspect of it, and then that's a whole that I have no problem with someone doing it if that's what if you're deriving whatever gratification, confidence, from that. But to make the claim that your testosterone level goes up if you refrain, that's not true. And again, the data is really old, but there were studies done on monks, or on
who are notoriously ladies' men, by the way, out there just banging everything they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the point.
Holy shit!
The point is, no one's ever shown any medical benefit. And we don't tell women not to have orgasms, right?
Well, so that's the
Well, that was
fucked
the
up
other
thing,
thing.
right?
They
It's
said
like,
that women don't lose any essence when they ejaculate.
right,
Men,
yeah.
the idea, the concept is you're giving out essence. Now, I did have an acupuncturist who was a researcher in China, and he's like, "What the fuck are you hanging on to it for?" Was his basic thing. He's like, "No, let it fly."
Yeah. I
But
mean, like, yeah, I mean,
Ideally, over your shoulder.
yeah, right.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, but this is what I'm saying. It's funny. We had another guy on who was a penis doctor, like Tom said, and he sent us one penis pump, which I thought was a little funny because I'm like,
it was
like,
kind of fun. Like I gave
are
it to
we?
Matt, and I'm like, "It's sealed, dude. Don't
Yeah,
worry."
yeah,
I didn't,
right. Yeah.
That's the original packaging.
I don't think you guys don't look like you're going to benefit from pumps. But the pumps have never been proven to increase blood flow. You can make your dick bigger without a question. Just the way you can make your
Wait, hold on now.
So wait. So because like he said that, and I was like, "Is that true?" Because everyone's telling me like everyone's like, "Are you wasting money?" Now I got to go buy a goddamn pump because
No. Well, how much? Look, do you think your wife is going to wake up faster at night when you're because you're half an inch bigger? It's that you can make your dick bigger, but at this point you're in too deep with your wife. She's not even going to notice. If you pump,
right.
you're wasting your time. If you're half an inch or an inch longer. So the question is, though, for men who have a problem, do pumps increase blood flow? Not just by pumping you up in a vacuum, but will it lead to sustained blood flow? Will your dick heal, so to speak? If you had a man, for example, who had 2 nocturnal erections per night, who has hypertension, diabetes, if that guy pumped for 3 months, can he get more blood into his penis and have firmer erection? So there's the first study of this is being done utilizing our technology and utilizing one of the leading penis pumps companies in the world. I can't mention the name, but
no, that's fine. But like, so
that's very interesting because he's doing some really out there stuff. PRP injections,
PEMF,
shockwave therapy was a big thing he was promoting. Maybe really.
Maybe. So shockwave therapy is interesting because our device and there's a study. It hasn't gotten approval yet. It'll be done. So a lot of claims are made for shockwave therapy. Well, if a guy has 1 or less nocturnal erections, his vascular genetic disease is probably so advanced it's not going to benefit. If he's got 3 or 4 nocturnal erections per night, the benefit is just going to be placebo. These places, like the clinics you mentioned, that are giving out testosterone, they're also shocking everyone. So a good deal of people are going to get shockwave therapy. The benefit is a placebo benefit, and so with our device, you can determine eligibility and save a whole fucking boatload of money because shockwave therapy is $6,000 to $12,000.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Really? I didn't realize it was that high.
Well, hey, believe me, dude. I literally, while we were on this call, I saw a text come in. It was from a shockwave company wanting me to put one in my office.
Wow.
Well, I would, it's been hard for me to get a shockwave study done because the academics don't believe in it. By the way, if Medicare paid for it, they'd believe in it. But the academics don't believe in it yet. And the guys who are doing it's cash business. And anyone who thinks that putting on a white coat and putting a stethoscope around your neck leads to integrity.
Yeah. I mean,
so
very easy to play a doctor on a podcast these days, right?
Yeah,
Isn't it?
So we have men. I can't say many. There have been 5 or 6 men that I'm aware of. 5 probably. I'm certainly aware of who have bought our technology. It's like, hey, before I spend all this money on shockwave therapy, I want to get this device. And 2 guys have shown me how they actually got better. So there are men who shockwave therapy works. How they've gone from one guy went from I was like 1.8, 1.9 nocturnal erections to 3 nocturnal erections after 6 treatments. Well, that's great.
That's data. Yeah.
That's data.
Yeah.
Now his doctor, they wanted him to get more treatments, but he didn't need it anymore.
So because we're coming up on the hour, and I want you, like, you're definitely going to plug this. I'm looking at your website now, and it looks like you have a couple of different options here. Actually, a lot of different options. What is, I don't want to say the best seller, but what is the best way to kind of explore this? Because, like, honestly, I'm fucking interested.
The best way to explore it is to get the Tech Ring Max PR bundle. So because the Tech Ring does function as an effective cock ring because all of our rings are designed so that you can, I'll illustrate here. There's a loop. If you want to tie it around the shaft, you just pull through the loop and it gets tied around the shaft. So all of our rings, including the Tech Ring, can be adjusted to maximize the pleasure benefits of an erection ring. But if you want a one-size-fits-all solution for 95% of men, you're going to put it on, you're going to rock harder, have more intense orgasm. That's the max PR. So for the data, it's the tech ring. For max PR, it's it's for pleasure, and we sell a bundle. That's the thing to go with. The performance ring is for men who are it's a big seller. We sell the performance ring is for men who are larger or think they're larger, and it's adjustable for guys who understand that. Oh,
who think they're larger but maybe aren't.
maybe I'm average. Maybe I'm really just average.
Right.
And so those are the three male devices. We have the ring mate, which is a vibrator that slides on and off all of our rings for penetrate, hands-free penetrative sex pleasure. With a common complaint being, I heard this from my wife. I came too quickly. So
that's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, so those are the four major products. But I reckon for the data, the tech ring, for sex, the max PR.
That's interesting. And so like that, you would just use those one or the other. So like if you got the bundle, you'd have like the tech ring for the nights you want to find your baseline and just do that a couple times a year, check in, and then the other ones just to fuck your brains
every night.
Yeah, that's funny. And
on the other hand, if you guys are having a competition, then you want to use the tech ring for that purpose. And
I mean,
you want to find out who's firmer, the Lakers or the Knicks. I mean, these are things that people want to know, and I assume going to know.
I mean, dumber things have happened, Doc, as you probably are you well aware? Like,
do we need to call Guinness if we think we're we're pushing some kind of record?
Is there a global leaderboard? Are we talking?
Sometimes we've sold it a lot of. Hey, you should go online. You're probably the firmest man in Luxembourg.
Yeah, you probably are. Yeah. You're like, sir, there's only like a million of us. Yeah.
We've got 3 guys in Israel. Look, you guys could be having a competition on who's firmer, the Jews or the Arabs.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like,
because they need more fuel on their fire.
Yeah.
This would be a peaceful competition.
That's how they all start.
Yeah. Before you know it, you're like, no, literally my
shit. I started World War III.
Yeah, right. That's hilarious. So what's like you said, a lot of people are using your thing, like just to kind of bring this home. Like what's like on the horizon? It seems like you guys have kind of hit a stride with this, and people are.
One, we're coming out with a new version of it, probably first quarter next year. We're adding sensors that'll make it more sensitive, meaning fewer false negatives. Meaning on the, it's going to detect really small changes.
I see.
And then we're also adding, we should have from the get-go, we're adding a accelerometer, and that will be able to tell you what positions you're having sex and estimate calories. So it could be, Tom, it seems like you're just having sex with the wife every night at 3 o'clock in the morning. You might want to change it up a little bit. She might be complaining of not getting enough sleep.
That's interesting.
I'm glad because I was going to use a Fitbit. But I didn't think it was appropriate.
Yeah. That's funny. No, I like that idea too, because you know what, like we've joked about this in the past, but like the one of the allures of big data is knowing weird shit and like putting together weird coincidence, right? And so like you might be able to say, hey, look, your erection is 5% less strong when you do doggy style. Like you might want to switch this up or take that out.
Yeah. We could be saving marriages. Hey.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, especially if guys share the app with their wives. By the way, we've had 2 guys not password protect their app. It's alleged divorce.
Bummer.
You don't
hey, I wasn't there. It was the statement
You can't get it up with me, and you claim I'm a lousy lover. But what happened? Where were you on Tuesday? Where were you on Saturday? That kind of thing.
Jeez.
But it could be going to your wife saying, Matt's wife, Ms. Hampton, all you're doing is blowing him. He might like something else.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a lot of data that could come out of that. That's just, I mean, look, we don't get this kind of data, right? And in fact, our parents all taught us not to talk about this shit at all. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not something.
This was taboo. This is all old guilt.
And I remember my 13th birthday checkup. I went to a doctor. It was a young doctor in a practice where the old doctor had just passed away and a new doctor took over the practice. And the first thing he said to me was like, has anyone talked to you about masturbation? And I fucking almost lost my mind. I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
I remember the fifth grade
about,
video, and
yeah.
I'm still not mature enough for that fifth grade video.
I was like,
Matt,
what
you
the fuck?
You weren't sitting in his lap when he asked this question.
I was not. No. He was handing me a cotton candy. No, I'm kidding. No,
yeah. No, but give me a prostate exam.
Yeah,
I was 12.
Yeah. But I mean, up to that point, everyone in the world was like, this isn't something you talk about. I mean, I damn near had a heart attack. I mean, put it this way, I'm 40, almost 49 years old. I still fucking remember it like it was yesterday. Why? Because it was jarring at the time.
Traumatic.
Like it was like, I'm like, who are you? Why are you talking to me about what I do with my dick in private? Like, what the fuck? And then I was like, years later, I reflect back on it. I'm like, it's probably the most progressive doctor in my town. Like, you know what I mean? Like this was in the 80s.
I think for your 50th, you and your wife should reenact that. Just kind of role play that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You know, masturbation's okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then he starts going like laying it on. It's like, you know, he's like, oh, it's natural, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, stop talking. Like, just
you're
stop.
making it worse, Mom.
Like, right. Although it could have been worse. My mom could have taken me to that fucking doctor's appointment. And you know, that's definitely the best story I've heard all day for sure. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
So,
well,
Doc, this has been unbelievably cool, man. Thank you for taking time out. I love these things because we don't get a chance to talk about this very often. I mean, years later, we're still not talking about this as much as we probably should.
And I got to say, the comedy definitely, I think, normalizes it too. You know, like, you know, there's certainly, you know, I mean, a lot of people
are, comedy. What do you mean? This is just
a lot
Friday.
of people are really upset about it. You know, and they, you know, I think because it is relatively a sensitive subject for a lot of people, you know, they don't want to address it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to, you know, they'd rather fuck off somewhere and, you know, go and live in a cave.
And and the doctors are partially at fault. Not only people that would discuss it with doctors don't want to discuss it with patients for two reasons. One is it's cultural, but also in the electronic health record that drives the entire visit now. Checking the box in the electronic health record. There are no questions about sex. If there were questions about sex, we'd be a healthier society because the doctors would ask these questions, and men with sexual problems they'd be identified earlier. And and you're right. I've had a lot of fun talking to you guys. This is
a good time.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm in MD VIP, and funny enough, in our annual physical, there's a whole section on sexual health there where they're literally saying like, how many times a week are you having sex? How many times a week do you want to have
the government
sex?
has your sexual history.
Well, that's
you know,
that should be in the regular electronic health record, and it's not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you've ever dealt with an MD VIP people, but they have like they have their own little sort of formula that they like. And I mean, look, I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm in on the formula, but it's because of shit like that. They have these little sort of sidebars that nobody else has that are like, because I'm sure if I said I have sex 0 times a week, that my doc would have been like, so, can we peel this number back a little bit? Like what's happening there? Because to your point, it could be that I can't, and in which case, should he be looking at my cardiovascular health a lot more?
Exactly.
Right, and it's sort of like a real big indicator that like a lot of people aren't definitely.
Well, you know, it's like going to the dentist and do your gums bleed? You know, I mean, it's the same thing, right? I'm pointing at something else that could kill you.
Here are just 3 medical factoids, if you will, relating to this. We know that people that have orgasms every day cut their cortisol levels, the stress hormone levels, by up to 50%. Each around 20, 25%.
No fucking way. Seriously? That's a lot. Wow.
We know. All right, I'm going to do an experiment.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if I want to lose,
do I need the diurnal spit test? Do I need a blood test? What do I need here?
Yeah.
We know there's a big study out of the United Kingdom showing that men over age 70 who have sex, I forget the number, 2 or 3 times a week versus men have sex less than 2 or 3 times a month, cut their risk of cardiac death by 50% for the next decade. That's a big number. Here's the most important one relating to your concierge doctor. We know that couples that have sex 3 times a week versus couples that don't have sex have half the divorce rate. Your doctor, if you answer the question, I don't have sex, your doctor should be, and obviously that's important in practice like social health. How are things going with your wife, with your partner? Is there a problem? Mm-hmm. That's going to affect your entire everything: depression, anxiety, your heart. Give that impact on your immune system.
I'm gonna put that above my, my bed.
Yeah, little
Couples
chalkboard
that have
tally,
sex
like,
3 times a week.
Yeah. But it's funny. People always bitch about, I mean, this is why I love this show, because I learn shit all the time. But like, can you imagine if everybody knew that all you had to do was fuck more to get rid of cortisol? And then, by the way, all that belly fat that supposedly cortisol is helping me hold on to. Like, I mean, it's just a dumb hack, but you're like, all I have to do is be happier and have more sex. And by the way, I can maybe get a little thinner in the process. This feels like a win-win situation.
Well, I've got, well, actually I didn't mention this.
He's like, I got a fucking 6-pack, bro. What do you think?
I'm shredded.
This is Licatique. This is the world's first monitor of health of clitoris. So
oh, wow. You go both ways.
That's the big thing that we're working on. And we'll come out with that next year.
That's
an all-day device?
It could be a device, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And now we start getting into app sharing intentionally with our spouses, right? Where you can be like, all right, let me check out your clit. Okay, what's your dick look like? Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah, could be. Hey, Matt, come home right away.
Come home right away.
I'm seeing eventually a dating app develop.
Well, what I'm seeing is your push notifications take care of that shit for you, Doc. You're like, hey, Matt, you might want to give your wife a text message because there's some shit happening you might be interested in. Yeah, exactly, right. All right, listen, this is fun. We can do this all day.
Fun, man.
Thank you so much. We'll point everybody to everything. You're very easy to find online, so we'll get you dug up and put you on the show notes and everything. So
that's great.
But in the meantime, thank you so much. Enjoy Montana for the weekend. Don't go anywhere, like I said.
Put a ring on it.
Put a ring on it. Thanks, guys.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.